I'll find out. So, first off, ChatGPT told me to thank everybody, but I really want to thank everybody because our park isn't in this area. I just really come because I enjoy spending time with all of you. It's not a line, it's the truth. You guys are like really good friends. You're like family. So it means a lot. You guys make me better at my job. I'm not really the PR guy, so you can ask me stuff and I'll probably tell you crap that I shouldn't tell you. But, and I won't get fired, I'll just get grounded, which is fun. No. But, it's the truth. I'm gonna be in so much trouble if anybody finds out what I'm talking about. But you make me better at my job. I'm a maintenance guy, and when I was younger, I used to try to make my parents proud on, fixing rides, and now I'm just glad to do it for you guys, because they're old and grumpy. But, but you guys make me better. You give me something to go to work, and it gives me pride to do it. I remember we did a preservation conference this year, and I want to thank you guys for thinking of our park. It was a great preservation conference. We were included with other great parks. We had Adventureland in Long Island, we had Ride Playland, and we had Luna Park. And to include us in that meant a lot to us. And preservation conference for me was my friends coming over after school, because that's what it felt like when you guys came. It was like my friends were coming over, so I stayed late that night and made sure everything was working and clean and tried to present our park as best I could, because that's what my mom always said. Your friends are coming over, clean your room. So I cleaned my room. So I like what Six Flags did with the whole rhyming thing. So we made signs. When your sign guy can't give you a favor, rely on your past history of child labor. So that's where the signs came from. But yeah, those are my boys. And anyone who came to the preservation conference, we made a button. Special button for anyone who was there. We set up banners everywhere to try to make people feel welcome. That's the MVP of the park. For anyone who doesn't know, my mother Stacy, hardest working person in the park. She's always cleaning. But we set up a tent, and under that tent we did coasters and cupcakes, which I thought was a fun little spin. And we put little Easter eggs throughout the park. So and everywhere you look, they had like little ace symbols. In our little games, in our dark ride. My mom has a cool trick of taking paper and soaking it in espresso beans, and it kind of makes it look weathered, to make it look like it was there for as long as my family's been there. And what made Preservation Conference so great in Coney Island is you guys got to experience, or anyone who went got to experience Coney Island the way it should be experienced, and that's as one park. Most people who come, they have to pay separate for Luna Park, they have to pay separate for our park, and you guys made us work together to provide an experience for all of you. And I think that's something that the two of us need to think about, how we can do that for everybody. But, we're friends. You can say, that's Alessandro Zamperla, he's a good friend of mine, and, you guys helped us work together, so we appreciate that. And there's our class photo at the end. Again, it was a great time. I wish we could have you guys every year. And anytime anyone's in the park, just ask for a DJ and say hello. I actually have tickets for you guys, so make sure you get them. They're whatever you want to give them out. But we went to a digital system back in 2019. We joined the 20th century in 2019. But we got there. But we had a couple extra paper tickets left over. They never expire, so they're inflation proof. Is how I'm going to market them. But you can use them, not use them, save them. There's 5 tickets there, so it's like a $50 value. And you can get on any 5 rides in the park. So, no. One thing that we did this year, and it was my mother's idea, is we put in a free little library. So I think we're the only amusement park with a free little library. And what it is it's just like a book sharing thing. You can take a book. Mostly people take books, so we make sure we fill it every day. But it was dedicated to my grandfather, John Aristotle. That's not a Greek name, Spanos. And he's not the grandfather that's part of the family business. My mom married into the family, but he was a teacher. And he taught me how important books are. And it really changed who I am as a person, because you learn only so much from school where books are boring. Having someone show you that you can go to a library and get a book and it's a free plane ticket to anywhere you want. And it meant a lot to me, who was this lonely kid who only knew about amusement parks. And it changed my life, so it's nice to be able to give back in that way. So, we fill it up with books, but staff shortages, so we couldn't find anyone to fill it up. So I had to bring my kids down again. Now, shh. Child labor, let's get this guy out of it. Us, out. We don't talk about child labor laws. But we also had the Brooklyn Public Library come down. And Coney Island's not the most affluent area. It's a low-income area, and a lot of people don't have access to, say, a Kindle, or don't even know what a library is. I know it's something new, but people don't understand that they can go to a library, take out a book for free. So what we did is we brought the library down, and they were signing up kids for library cards on the spot. And what's great about that is we're an amusement park. Everything in an amusement park for a kid is shiny, cool, exciting. We can do that to books. We can make books cool and exciting. So while we have kids' attention, we can try to maybe expand their mind, or at least show them that there's resources outside of Netflix. And that's my father and my uncle. My father, I learned the maintenance from him, my uncle, and they both signed their grandkids up for library cards that day. I can't talk about opening a new coaster all the time because we're kind of landlocked, but I can talk about things that might be interesting, and one is 3D printing. So one thing that our park does well, a lot of our rides are old, and their manufacturer's gone. So yes, we do use a machine shop, but a lot of things are hard to machine because like on some of our old Mangles rides, each axle is different. So like to have a machine shop make different axles, which we do for the Wonder Wheel, by the way, so all those axles are different too. 16 different coaster credits. No, I'm just kidding. But we do a lot of 3D printing. So here's an example of, this is actually a new ride, but it was a manufacturing defect. This is a little shoulder bushing in here. And right after we got the ride, every week I was changing 2 or 3 wheels, every week on this ride. And the problem was these shoulder bushings were too small. And if you look, there should be more space here. It was kind of the wheel hub wasn't, one thing on paper, another thing when they actually built it. But we were getting a lot of rubbing here, and this rubbing was creating metal shavings, it was creating a lot of heat, both of which are not good for bearings, and the bearings were failing. So what we did is we made our own. So you see the shoulder bushings were breaking and then the bearings were breaking. So you can see how thin these are right there. And when we decided to make our own, you see even inside the bearing there was a lot of slop here. Tolerances weren't tight enough. So we made our own. We made it thicker here to keep any rubbing, and we made it tighter inside the bearing. So now that's a special kind of plastic too. It's not just regular plastic on those water bottles, but it's made of like polyethylene, so it kind of slips. So even if the bearing did fail, that bushing can act as a bearing. But ever since we put those in, I went from changing 2 a week. I haven't changed 1 in 8 years. I know. You see it's 8 years old because this camera has trouble focusing. This is before, pixels and all this on iPhones. You'll see it has trouble focusing, but this thing's still playing. All right, so there it is on the computer, and there it is on the printer. You can see the camera doesn't really focus as well as the new stuff, but there's our shoulder bushings being printed. And there's the new one. I just took this picture last year, but you see the gap? We don't have any more rubbing now. And the bushings take a lot of work away from the bearing, so they both work together and it lightens the load a lot. Here's another 3D printed part. This is just for a kiddie ride, a little horn on a kiddie ride. It's just a holder for the horn. And what's cool about how it's printed is I can print it with threads. So with minimal cleanup, I can take that 3D printed part, put it on the ride, and just put the bolt right through. I don't have to tap the hole, anything, it just comes regular. And another cool thing, which I think is in the future for a lot of parks, is stocking parts digitally. So here's pony car bushing right there. I can take that part, drag it into the software, modify it, because one axle might be an inch or a millimeter bigger or smaller, and I don't have to have a shelf full of parts. I can have a hard drive and just print them as I need them. Here's that horn in there now. Here's a modification done by a 3D printer. This is just the mirror. It's just a decal. It's non-functioning. But what kids used to do is they used to use this as a handrail. this all used to be round, so they used to grab the handrail, and then the whole thing would give, and they'd fall down the stairs. So we 3D printed it square, and it locks itself in, and now it's not supposed to be a handrail, but it can function as a handrail. Another thing we 3D printed, this ride's from 1986. It didn't have LED lights on top. So instead of having to drill through this stainless steel, we just made an adapter, 3D printer. Oh, wrong way. And there's the LED lights with the adapter. This is a brake fin on a Myler Serpent coaster. And as the train's coming into the station, depending on the weight and the wear on the wheels, it's going to be maybe 3/16 of an inch to the left or to the right. So what manufacturers do is they put these brake fins on little rubber pads so that it gives a little. The rubber pads were wearing out, and I didn't like that they were really, I mean, it used to move like almost an inch, and we didn't need that sloppy tolerance, so I just 3D printed new ones that had a little tighter tolerances, and it meant that I can control the wear on the brake fin, so that I could just get it right in the middle so I would get even wear. And the brakes would last, instead of a year, now I get like 4 or 5 years out of those brakes. Just some fun stuff. I can make it colorful. And sometimes plastic is stronger than steel, because steel is very rigid and it can snap. So this, we used to change this probably every 3 weeks, because the kids would go like crazy on these bells. You ever go to an amusement park, like, ah, it's like little monsters like my kids. But they sleep good at night after that though. But I made it out of plastic to see if it would last longer, and it lasts about a year or 2 years. So just because the plastic doesn't snap, it just kind of bends a little bit. 3D printed, not sensors, but brackets for sensors. Just everything looks a little neater. I can use this clicker. And here's just an example of how you can manipulate the parts in the software. So I can take some, I can put letters, I can put threads. If one bushing needs to be a little thicker or a little thinner, I can just manipulate it in the software and then print it, which is kind of cool. Here's the software making threads. Another thing we 3D printed, I mentioned we went to that digital system. So the company that sold us these readers swore to us that they would be fine outside. 2 weeks later, half were broken. So we ended up having to 3D print like a little guard. They still don't last forever, but they last a couple of years now at least. It just protects it from the rain. And these are all 3D printed too. So we just went into the software, we 3D printed a visor, we 3D printed a junction box, and we made it so that it kind of camshells together, which makes maintenance easier. Instead of having to take the reader off and then the junction box off, it's all one piece now. So it's a 5-minute job instead of a 30-minute job. Another cool use of a printer is you can make templates with it. So sometimes in a park you have to make the same holes everywhere, and you just make a jig. We can make jigs on this thing. The readers still go down once in a while, so I made a little belt that runs on shop batteries, on drill batteries, and put a wireless card inside. So even if a reader did go out, instead of having to shut the ride because we can't accept any payment, we just go out with one of these portable ones. And if you want to see the worst picture ever, all my friends were out like drinking and having fun. I was home playing with a printer. Dorkiest picture ever. Way too proud of that thing. Another cool use of the printer, this is on one of our dark rides. It's a blaster for our dark ride. And down here it has a lot of thick plastic to support it, but up here it had this little thin strip of plastic, and it would break all the time. Like they would last 2 weeks and then they would break. So what would happen was the eye would fall down. It would only fall down like a 16th or an 1/8 of an inch, but an 1/8 of an inch here, when somebody's shooting on a screen, is like 18 feet. So bad guest experience, it would break the lens. It just didn't work out. So now when I get them in, I purposely break this little piece and put my own in there. And it lasts forever. And keeps the gun straight, everybody's happy, their guns are shooting where they're supposed to shoot. Another cool thing that we did on this ride, just because I thought it was fun and interesting, is on these triggers, there was a little micro switch here. So when you hit the trigger, it hits the micro switch and then it tells the computer, hey, this gun's been fired. They lasted anywhere from 2 hours to 2 months. And I was changing 2 or 3 a day, and it was nuts. So I called the manufacturer, I said, look, you gotta help me. Like, these micro switches are failing, and people are complaining. They said, yeah, you're right, we messed up with that. We have a new system now. It has a laser. The laser knows where the trigger is going to be. You're going to love it. I'm like, yes, it sounds great. I love it already. I'll take it. They said, sure. They gave me a bill. I said, thanks, but no thanks. Lasers are expensive. But so we found another way. And it brings me to a cool story. In the 1960s, NASA was sending spaceships into space, right? They were afraid that the astronauts wouldn't be able to log their numbers because the pens wouldn't write in zero G. Anybody here know what the Soviets did? They used pencils. They didn't spend millions of dollars on the fancy laser trigger things. So we did the same thing. We took the micro switch out. We soldered one wire to one end of the spring, put the other end of the wire to where the spring goes when the trigger's pulled. Haven't changed one in 10 years. Pencil. Another cool 3D printed toy is a go-no-go gauge on roller coaster wheels. So the manufacturer says I'm supposed to measure for wear across the diameter. Every 2 millimeters of wear, I'm supposed to make it up with a shim. So I can't really get a tool in here to measure for wear. I mean, I kind of can with this one, but not at all with these. So I made a jig. Instead of measuring for 2 millimeters of wear from top to bottom, I just measure 1 millimeter on one side. So this was a prototype to see if it would work. The new one goes all the way across the wheel. I didn't get the right measurement. But if I put this across the wheel and the tip touches the wheel, it doesn't need a shim. If the tip doesn't touch, I have to put a shim. So it's another fun 3D printed thing. And there you can see how you get wear on the wheel. That's what makes a coaster, sometimes that's what makes a coaster rough, is the wheels aren't really touching the rails because they're kind of bouncing around. So when you get a lot of wear, you put in a shim. Every manufacturer is different. Sometimes you have to tighten springs, but for a Vekoma SFC, you put in a shim, you get a nice smooth ride again. One other thing is, during COVID, my park was closed for 18 months. We didn't know what to do. We knew what we could do. PPE was nowhere to be found. I don't know if any of this made a difference, but we had laser cutters and 3D printers, so we put them to work. And in the beginning, we were making 5 shields a day. The last 2 weeks, we were doing 150 shields a day because we just kept modifying the process and hollowing out certain parts of the plastic and making other parts thicker. But you can see how it's being printed here. That's on one machine, and that's a print that's almost finished on another machine. Yeah, but during COVID, I brought it into my house. So we brought everything into my house so I could work through the night. And the laser is cool. I was only cutting at 20% at full speed, so that's what you see there. But the plastic wasn't, this is meant to cut wood. Plastic was going all over the place because of the fan in there. So then I came up with a jig. I cut a piece of wood, and I put the plastic in the piece of wood, and I wouldn't have to worry about putting a saw on top or a weight on top. So that's another thing that sped the process. That got us from making 5 a day to 150 a day. And there's your laser. And you can see how it cuts, which I always thought I was like firing the Death Star. I kept saying, "You may fire when ready." I'm the biggest geek in this room, I'm telling you. But little things like when I was cutting at 20%, it was cutting the plastic clean off. And then I realized that makes for a lot of cleanup because then the plastic blows throughout the machine and I have to find each piece of plastic, otherwise it'll ruin the next cut. So by not cutting all the way through the plastic, I was able to save a lot of time because then I could just break it with my hands. And it was just so much quicker than having to clean up. So it's like little things that you can do. Well, I had my kids working. You kidding me? Of course they were working. Well, I had them working because I wanted to show them that they can make a difference, but yeah, I had them working. And you put it in. It's also like firing phasers on the Enterprise. Anyone a Star Trek fan? Yeah! We also added a light package to the Phoenix. We went to KCL because after talking with a lot of you said, go to KCL, they're the best, and then they gave us a bill and I said, we're not doing KCL. No. So then I ended up getting COVID, so instead of getting a rest, my parents said, you go figure out that LED thing for your coaster, and I was like, all right, no problem. So that's what I did. I figured out beam patterns, what kind of lights would be right. I made brackets for them, I designed the brackets, I measured for the brackets, but then I needed help installing the brackets, couldn't afford to hire anybody. worst part of that day was? I said preservation conference was my second favorite day. This was my favorite day ever in my life at work. But the hardest part of that day was calling my wife and telling her, you don't need to pick the kid up from school today. It's always easier to ask for forgiveness than permission. But we had a great time. He learned more here than he did in school. And there are the lights all installed. And here you go. Let's see if this is loud enough. That's okay. I can't fit in there, so I'm glad you're here to help me.
What if this happens again?
It happens all the time.
Then how do you fix it?
I have to bend down and get on my knees, and it's not fun. But you're here for me. Good job, buddy. Keep them all up there. Good job. You ready?
Can I get out?
Get the next one? Why do you think I have it here? I don't want to work. I have you to do it. Yeah, don't worry about it. Yucky's good.
We have some cleaning to do.
Let's take the thing apart.
Stop bossing me.
Just stop asking me.
So, we working today? What are we doing?
Yeah, we're working on the dark ride. We did all of that. I took all the screws out and got under it. And the boss pulled it up and then he changed the new wire. And now we're changing the gun because that's the part that was broken and I'm taking out all of it.
Good job, buddy. I didn't pay him, but I fed him. Hot dogs and cheese fries. And instead of giving him money, I made him a toy on the printer. Gift that keeps on giving. But yeah, it's just, he was into Frozen in the beginning of the year, so I 3D printed him an Elsa, because Disney charges crazy money. Although, wait, Disney, that's right, Steamboat Willie theme rides now, right? Yes, I'm here to announce that I will make a Mickey Mouse Steamboat Willie ride, because I can. Yes, I want to keep it nice. Go ahead, put it in all the way. Pay attention to what you're doing, now pull down. There you go, Sarah. See, now it's loose. That's it, just keep taking that out. We're going to change what are we doing?
Changing the feeder to lap bars. Did you forget the lap bars?
No, the lap bar is going to stay the same. We have the coil here. We're going to change the coil.
I can do it with one hand.
Good job. That's actually pretty good.
Yep. What?
Good. Put the lap bars down for winter. We're just checking for winter maintenance, right, guys? Good job. Good job, boys. I wasn't kidding. I had to do it as a kid. They're gonna have to do it as kids. Shoot. They're still young, but I'm afraid of the labor department now, thanks to somebody. But what makes us special, what makes us different, is that we are a family business. So you can see that I'm always with my brother, my father, my cousins, my uncle. We're the guys. We're always here. Me, my brother and I, my other brother, Ringo, doing some ride testing.
No.
My mother and my niece finishing, and this is the shop, which is under our park. The shop is all underground. And my son at work, my mother, 90% of the time he comes to the park, my mother's going to be at the Wonder Wheel. And my father's favorite daughter. 3D print parts, and he gives me the dog jumps on the forklift, and look how proud he is. Pretty high, yeah. So that's it. That's my family. That's my park. I want to thank you guys for coming. Can't cut the dog off, right? Look how happy he is about it. That's his favorite. My mother decorating some of the props in one of our dog rides. I told them they looked alike if they could pose. Yeah, it's New York. We use the middle one more. And honestly, guys, from the bottom of my heart, thank you for letting me be a part of this. It means a lot to me because we're a small park. We don't belong here. We're not in the same league as these other parks, but it's fun to hang out. I hope I can make you laugh and tell you something different. Any questions? Yes. So anybody who does MIG welding, you know that when you weld, you can use different kind of material sticks, and the same thing with printing. I have a spool that's kept in like a moisture-resistant containers, kind of like the way we keep our welding rods, and different materials for different things. So I must have probably 20 different materials depending on what I'm printing. It's not something I'd ever put on something that could fail and hurt somebody, but it is something that I can use on some of our older rides, the kiddie rides that don't require a lot of force. And the good thing about it is it saves on lubrication too, because a lot of the plastic I use is self-lubricating, so it's a cleaner material. Shoot.
With 3D printing, are you able to use some, we'll say, original prints from magazines, using original prints as posting them?
If you can find those original prints, I'll take them. But the problem is those axles and those wheel hubs are worn out so much that they wouldn't really do me any good. So I just have to measure everything and then I draw it on the CAD from there. But yeah, it could. Like when I have to build templates and stuff, then I can use original prints. Yes?
I want you to take your image of God versus
Always easier to ask for forgiveness than permission. He still doesn't know about half that stuff. Shoot.
Two things. Are your kids pretty much all set to take over the next generation?
Well, see, I told my wife nothing's guaranteed. If they turn out to be a-holes, they're not getting it.
And also, was it Nathan's? And the hot dogs and fries come from Nathan's?
Absolutely. I'm not an animal. What do you think I'm going to do? Go to the supermarket and get them hot dogs when Nathan's is right up the block? I'm not Father of the Year, but I'm not that bad. Shoot.
Are y'all doing a Christmas time event just like
Luna Park. Okay, so Luna Park, our neighbor, did a Christmas time event, and we kind of waited to see how theirs would work out. The problem with us is it's just me and my family and like 2 or 3 other key guys, and we do the maintenance for all the rides. So we're barely going to make it. Like I just finished putting Phoenix back on Tuesday. Just finished putting that train back on the track, and I still have to torque and test everything. So I don't know if we physically can. The Wonder Wheel, we definitely can't because those cars, and maybe I'll talk about that another time, get refurbed. A quick picture of the Wonder Wheel here somewhere. So here's the Wonder Wheel in our shop. So we have to do this every year. That's kind of, it's not exactly, this will be next year's presentation maybe. But you can see the wheel. I guess that's all I have of the wheel. But we take apart the axles, everything gets NDT'd, non-destructive tested, so it's too much for the wheel. I can open the Phoenix and some of our other rides because that doesn't take me as long, but it's kind of hard to open the park without this star attraction, you know?
yes?
Anybody else?
What's your opening day?
March 24th.
Hey, a couple weeks.
So you feed your kids, but you don't pay them. You at least give them a smoke break?
If they wanted a smoke break, if I could go, sure. They can do anything they want as long as they do it with me. Shoot.
Do you have any other machines or things to make parts?
Yeah, we have our own lathe. Like the Wonder Wheel doesn't have anything plastic on it, but like we have a lathe that cuts the axles for the Wonder Wheel that we don't machine. A lot of stuff we send out to be machined, but like little bushings and stuff for the wheel we can cut on site because every single one's different, so we can't just machine one. So we machine the biggest size and then we cut it to fit each wheel. But yeah, definitely. I mean, 3D printing stuff is fun, but most of the heavy duty stuff is steel or brass. Guys, thank you very much. It's been my pleasure, as always.